Guys, this video is all back again from the Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, and let's get one started. Today we have Dragon Empire Overlord. So this is an interesting deck, and that one that also failed recording for the first time. Somewhat like PvD, which you didn't know, as well as this one. When I recorded them for the first time, I accidentally left out important cards in the deck that were in my real build, but when the cards first came out, I didn't upgrade the builds till after they came out. So pretty much, I accidentally recorded the wrong decks twice. Thankfully, I caught it in time before I uploaded it, so here we are, and I'm recording this the day before this goes up, so hopefully it works. So, anyways, Overlord, interesting deck. They bring back the good old Overlord field, Overlord the clan, that's what it was called, because Kagura doesn't exist apparently. And all around, it's a fun deck. It's not in my opinion, it's not the best in terms of fun. Like, I know some people who find the deck really fun. In my opinion, it's like better than PBD, but worse than Eugene for me, in terms of how fun it is. In terms of actual goodness, it kind of goes like a flat line to where it goes up, and then it just kind of stays there, and then it slowly derails. But either way, the deck's still fine. So let's go ahead and get it started. First up, we have our starter and Lizard Runner Undeux. 6k base, 5k shield, grade 0 with boost. Auto when it's wrote upon, if you win second, you draw a card. Oh my god, I hate these cards so much. I love the bringing back of the starters, and I love Undeux. I wish it was calmer, but still. I hate the skill that they give them. Once more, I will go over in a later video. Probably not going to go up till either Saturday or Sunday. I hope that changes, but I know myself, and I know it probably won't. So, Undeux is still a good starter. I'll complain about him in a later video, or just starters in general. But either way, he's nice. He's the original starter for Kagura, so it's nice that they brought him back. I prefer Conroe, though, because Conroe, in my opinion, felt like the better Overlord-related starter, but it's still a good starter nonetheless. Next up, we have our Overtrigger, Dragon Deity, King of Resurgence, Dragveda, 5k base, 50k shield, grade 0 with boost. The Overtrigger I see the most. Every other Overtrigger, I'll see, like, damage check most of the time. All of them I've drive checked at least once. So, I think I've drive checked I drive checked Bruce the second most. I have drive checked Keter once, and then the other times I've just damage checked it. Blessed Favor, I've damage checked twice, drive checked once. And, what's the one for Brandgate? Brandgate, I've drive checked twice and damage checked once. This one, and then most of the times they just stay in the deck, or sometimes they'll go to Solar Hand. This one's the one I see the most in all of the Dragon Empire decks. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it during drive checks, damage checks, hand cards, soul cards, to the point where I think it's obvious that I meant to pick Dragon Empire as my main nation, because this is the Overtrigger I see the most inherently for some reason. But yeah, Dragveda, his skill is you may only have one Overtrigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, remove it, draw a card, choose one of your units, it's plus one mainly for the turn. If revealed during your draft check, activates additional effect, standard Vanguard. So, really interesting. It allows you to restand your Vanguard. In my opinion, Nirvana isn't mad on needing this. What's it called? Eugene doesn't need this, in my opinion. Overlord actually uses pretty well, because now you have 3 Vanguard attacks, and if you play it right, 2 of them have 2 drives. So you'll get like quintet drive out of it. So really nice with Dragveda here. He really does help out this deck, and I like him a lot. One of. Next up, we have our triggers. 3 copies of Blaze-Staff Monk Chu Kusha. 5k base, 5k shield, grade 0 with boost. You know what draw triggers do. Nothing too special about them. 3 of it, because you don't need that many draws in this deck. You're fine with 3 draws. We run 4 front trigger in Blaze Maiden Parama, 15k shield, grade 0 boost, 4k base, continuous guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, it gets plus 5k shield. You want those fronts because your rear guards never hit for big numbers, at least in my opinion, and from what I've seen with this deck, they never hit big numbers. So front triggers are really nice to have, followed by having that 20k shield. So all around, nice card, 4 of. And finally, we have our crit and Conduct Spark Dragon. I mean, besides our heal over here, and young White Light Dragon Parasola. The crit is here because, you're restanding the Vanguard. You want to have some form of crit pressure. And the heal is here because, game mechanics. You don't want to not have heals. I mean, there were decks that used to run no heals, and then there's Nuncio, which is, I guess, the exception to this rule. But besides those, I haven't seen a deck that hasn't ran heals. If we just get rid of Nuncio from this equation, I haven't seen a deck that hasn't run heals since the start of G era. Or whenever I entered Vanguard, which was about midway through G era. So but then the first deck profile, the last deck profile I saw with no heals in it was like the right beginning of G era. So you know, that's how this works. You run heals unless you're playing No Seal or something all the way back at the start of G. So, yeah. Next up, we have our grade 1s. 4 copies of our PG Twin Buckler Dragon. 6k base, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, continuous unknown. We have up to 4 cards with continuous unknown on the deck. Auto, when it's placed on guard circle, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit on battle. If you have 2 or more hand cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. So that's really nice that all PGs have the ability to where if you have this and only one other card in your hand, when you play the PG, you don't have to discard it, making it a lot easier for you to guard with this. In my opinion, this is like out of all the Dragon Empire decks, it's the one that needs this the least because you always have like a lot of hand cards, and by the time that effect normally goes off, that's the time that you're dead. So, I mean, Nirvana takes full advantage of this. I should know, because I even played the deck without PGs and I saw what happens. Still really good. PGs actually did something in terms of adding defense. And then Eugene does need it and then doesn't, but this one doesn't really need it because I get like a lot of hand cards really quickly. And then when it gets to like the very late game, if the opponent stalls out enough, then yeah, that's when the PG starts coming in handy. But until then, the PG is there for shit like Greedon now. Before Greedon, I would say maybe not even considering running the PG, but yeah, now Greedon's out, run the PG. 4 copies of Dragon Monk Gojo, the boy who's in my Dragon Empire combination. Rage of the Empire is what I've chosen to call it, where it's just Verena shoved in with Overlord, shoved in with Eugene. So yeah, triple triad right there, trying to murder everyone. The deck works somehow, and then it's better than this one in my opinion. Anyways, Gojo skill, AK base 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto rear, when this unit boosted a Vanguard's hits, retire it, countercharge 1. So, if it boosts a Vanguard and it hits, you countercharge. It doesn't matter if it's a Vanguard, doesn't matter if it's a rear guard. If it hits at all, you countercharge. If you're using Overlord, this is pretty much a guaranteed murder on a rear guard because Overlord can make it so that they can't guard a rear guard. And if you're using this with Nirvana, which I highly suggest considering because I've test played it, Urger, while I admit is a good card, does not give you countercharge fast enough. Even when I was playing, like, barely any counterblast abilities, minus Nirvana and the occasional Valiente if they let it hit, I would run out of counterblast so quickly until I shoved Gojo in, making it either they guard the Vanguard now and not let me countercharge, or they take it and I do countercharge. Either way, Gojo is a very nice grade 1 in any deck that requires counterblast. 4 of, I don't want to hear otherwise, especially if your Vanguard is not that important, because I'm telling you, Nirvana takes full advantage of this. Because in my opinion, in the entirety of Dragon Empire with the Overdress deck, it's not even Nirvana that's what it's called. You call it Verena or Overdress. You don't call it Nirvana, which is why Nirvana has like no one hit pressure. Put this behind it, then they have reasons to guard the Vanguard or take it and you get a benefit. Next up, we have our last grade 1 and our main grade 1. 4 copies of Embodiment of Armor Bahr, 1 in the ride deck, 3 in the main deck. 8k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto, when it's rode upon by a Dragon Knight in a Holem. Counterblast when search deck for up to 1 grade 1 card. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So a way to search a PG, a way to search him, a way to search Gojo for countercharging. All around really nice because it enables a rush early on once you ride in a Holem on it. And auto rear once per turn, when your Vanguard's attack hits, it gets +5 for the turn. So maybe once per turn, that's a 13k base, and it's just like Gojo where it can hit a rear guard for that ability to go off 2, not just the Vanguard. So all around, Bahr's really good. He can be helpful in a grade 1 rush, especially if you just call down multiple of them. He's helpful in like getting you materials, that PG search, the Gojo search, a search for himself. All around, Bahr does a lot of work for the deck, and I love him for that. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. Next up, we have Berserk Dragon, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto rear, when this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Overlord in its card name, it gets +5 for the battle. Then counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and retire it. So really nice. When it swings, when it swings, your Vanguard is Overlord most likely. It will be a 15k swinger, and you have the possibility to kill a grade 2 or less rear guard. So all around, I like it. Murder's rear guards is a 15k base combined with Persona Ride / triggers. It's a 25. So Berserk Dragon, all around, nice grade 2, 4 of. 4 of our only other grade 2 in this deck, Dragon Knight and a Holem. I know what you're thinking. Yes, there are only 2 grade 2s in this deck, but, you know, Bahr technically does more than what the grade 2s do to some extent. Don't start calling me out on this. Gojo, on-hit countercharger. Literally, Gojo has been the sole reason why my Nirvana deck, well, not the sole reason, but like, the reason that I'm not having counterblast issues. So I refuse to not run Gojo at 4, regardless of what you fucking say, especially because I'm extremely sensitive to counterblast you, so I have to use Gojo. Anyways, Nahalim's kill, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2, then I'll get on to why I run less grade 2s later. Auto, when it's rolled upon by a unit with Overlord in its card name, call it to rear. Act rear once per turn if your Vanguard... If you have a Vanguard Overlord in its card name, soul boss 1, this unit, all of your Vanguards get +5. So it's a 15k and a 18k Vanguard if your Vanguard is Overlord, and it's just a way to call it out the second you ride on top of it with Overlord. So all around, nice grade 2 to have. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, and the reason why I only run 7 total grade 2s if we don't count the ride deck, 8 if we do, is because there's not that many good grade 2s, in my opinion, to splash in. If you know me, I'm like the archetype of player to where if it is an archetype or lore-wise belongs to an archetype or looks like it belongs to an archetype, I will push them away from each other. There's a word I can use, but it's not how I mean to use it. But like, I would just separate them, and I admit like they make really good combos with each other, but it bothers me to have them together in the same deck if my intention is not to do everyone together. Like with me, it's either I do everyone at once, not in a sexual way, or I don't do everyone at once, what's more, not in a sexual way. So pretty much either I put Nirvana, Overlord, and Eugene all together, and whatever other Dragon Empire decks comes in, or I don't put any of them together. That's how it works. Whether you agree with me or not on that philosophy, you do you, I do me. It's fun for me, and it's fine that way. But if you want to go ahead, do your own thing. I really don't care. Anyways, on to grade 3s. But yeah, there's no, in my opinion, no other good grade 2s, because before Berserk Dragon came out, I was running Fudomaru, and literally the only reason I put Fudomaru in a deck is as a placeholder for when I know they're going to give us a better grade 2. That's when I put Fudomaru in, or at least that's a hope, because that's what I normally do, because I want to get rid of Fudomaru. Grade 3s, 4 copies of Volcanicgun Dragon, 13k base, grade 3 twin jet persona ride, auto rear when it attacks. If your opponent has no form or rear guards, it gets +5 for the battle. So 18k swing if they have no form or rear guards. Here's how Overlord works. You get an immediate murder. You normally swing with this last because you probably have Berserk Dragon on another rear guard. So, just swing with Berserk, kill the other rear guard, or maybe they intercepted against Overlord. Who really knows? Either way, easy way to kill the front row, and he's an 18k swing for that. All around, I like this card. He's really nice, and he's a budget grade 3 too, so you can even run him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a Vanguard ability, which would make him so much better. But once more, something else I'll get into later. And our last normal unit, but not our last card, is 4 copies of Dragonic Overlord, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the ride deck. 13k base, grade 3 twin jet persona ride, continuous Vanner rear. During the battle that attack the rear guard, your opponent cannot call cards from their hand to guard circle. So I like that because that gives a unique twist to the Overlords. All the other ones had some form of power. Well, not all the other ones, but like all the other original Overlords, like just the first one, technically the Break Red one, I think, and the one from V, and I might be missing another one. But all the ones that are just originally Dragonic Overlord all had a way to gain power. While he does not, he guarantees that it will hit the rear guard that it swings into unless they intercept it. But most of the time, they're only going to be able to intercept from front row, and that's most likely going to be a 5k shield. I'm purposefully ignoring the Hexa Orb card and other cards that can be 10k shields if you have certain cards on Van. So anyways, that's a way to kind of guarantee a hit with Overlord, especially if you combine it with Nahalim, because most likely then you're at an 18, they're probably at a 10, unless they do have one of those 10k interceptors. They're not going to be able to guard it. So automatically, that's a guaranteed hit on the rear, and he does have an on-hit ability regardless of what it hits, along with things like Bahr over here. So he really does do that. He does really good with that ability. And then auto Van once per turn, when this unit attack hits, counterblast 1, discard a card, stand it, and lose a drive for the turn. So standard lose a drive stand ability, it's less counterblast than the first Overlord, and it's less hand card discard for all the other ones. Like, the first one was counterblast 3, no discard. I don't remember what the Break Red did. And I remember the V1 was counterblast 1, discard 2. This is counterblast 1, discard 1. So all around, that's a lot better because you're wasting less hand cards, and it still gets a stand out of it, and it still loses the drive, but you're also guaranteeing the kill of a rear guard, and it also works on rear guard. So if there are any pesky rear guards you want to get rid of, like Fusado, who you cannot kill by effects, this isn't killing by effects, you're just preventing it from being guarded. So all around, Overlord makes a really nice grade 3. 3 of and 1 of. I mean, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. Next up, we have our orders and 2 copies of Burn Bright Pure Prayers. Grade 2 Blitz Order. If your damage zone has 3 or more cards, choose one of your units and it gets plus 15 for the battle. So standard just plus 15, nothing too special about it. Your Vanguard immediately becomes a 28k. all around, that's really what this is here for the Vanguard turns when you get to grade 3. But you can also use it at grade 2 if you're trying to not get past 3 damage on grade 2, because I know a lot of people refuse to do that. Me personally, it depends on what deck I'm playing, where I'll willingly go to 4 damage early just because I want to. That's basically my thought process. Like, what is the chances that I'm gonna... The more counterblast I have, the more fun things I can do. And while I could just wait it out, I refuse to do that. So, 2 copies of Burn Bright Pure Prayers, because it helps during grade 2 rush, and it helps during, like, just late game grade 3. 3 copies of Flame Dragon Bombardment, grade 2 normal order. Choose one of your vanguards until end of turn it gets continuous van. All of your units can attack back row units when they would attack, which means you're going to start swinging at back row. So say the opponent pulls an over trigger during their damage check. Welp, fuck me, I can't swing the vanguard, so I can't kill them this turn. Yeah, you might not be able to kill them this turn. I mean, unless you still have your over trigger in deck and then you just restood Overlord from it and you really want to risk that chance on the 1 drive check. But if you activate a Flame Dragon Bombardment, you can start murdering their field, and if they have stuff in the back row, this is really going to hurt them, because even though you have like 3 or 2 attacks maybe, you're still killing multiple rear guards and possibly forcing out hand cards. And if 2 of your swings are from Overlords, most likely it's only going to be 1 of them if you did choose to restand it, you're at least getting a guaranteed kill on a rear guard. So all around, Bombardment is a nice card to have, because while it's not the best in terms of like flashy effects, or it's not flashy at all, you can still crush the opponent's foundations and then wait for them to collapse off it. Depending on what was on their board, that would actually do a lot to them. Stuff like Eugene, this wouldn't do much to, but like decks that kind of like somewhat like Magnolia, I feel like would fall to this. Not completely fall to this, but like it would make plays a lot more difficult for them. That's what I'm trying to say here. So 3 copies of Bombardment, because it can be really helpful in certain situations. And that was the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This deck is really interesting to play. It's not the most flashy deck. If you wanted a flashy deck, you came to the wrong place. But it's a deck where you can hit really early, and then you just kind of stay on a consistent line, and then you'll maybe decline depending on what deck you're facing in the late game. But if you want a consistent deck that works out really well and is, in some people's opinion, really fun to play, in my opinion, it's not the funnest, but it's not the worst either, because that belongs to another deck that... It belongs to PBD. PBD is my least favorite. It's nothing to do with the aesthetic of PBD. I love PBD's aesthetic. I just hate its skill completely. Well, I love its skill. I just hate how the deck plays. Anyways, if you want a fun deck that is consistent and just really easy using, by all means, go Overlord. No, they might not get any support besides like generic stuff that everyone gets, but it's still a good deck nonetheless. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join the Discord, follow the Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.